Hi, very good morning. It's Gene from maverickstar. Guys, I have no sympathy whatsoever for people that have brought electric vehicles, EVs. None whatsoever. First of all, they've never done, the research into this industry of electric vehicles. And secondly, if you own one last night in the UK, just know that 35% of the energy that went into your vehicle that pollutes the atmosphere with all that terrible CO2 came from gas-powered electric generation, and a further 16% came from sources like nuclear power. I'll just tell you how clean your car was last night. It was 26%, because it was using 26% of mainly wind power, which on a good day, you might be lucky, but that's about as clean as your car gets. When you compare it to the environmental impact of producing your car, it's 3 times more harmful to the environment and the climate than any other car. And then there's the resale value of your car, and we've all got electric toothbrushes, electric shavers, electric laptops, and we know how long the batteries last, and it will be no different for the battery in your car. Only when it comes to be replaced, it's going to cost you more than the value of the car's worth. So I've got no sympathy for you not listening to other people, not listening to even scientists, not listening to people that show you these things. You go out, you want to be trendy, you want to own the latest laptop in vehicle terms, and the latest mobile phone and this, that and the other, then carry on. And when it comes to selling it, or the practicality of it, that's your own doing, because you brought it on your own decisions. You listened to the government? They said it was clean for you to do this? Okay. Well, the reality is something quite different. And then there is the problem of charging the vehicle up when you're not at home and you're on a journey, because people are leaving the EV cars quicker than hot baked bread, trust me. Because when you get to a charging point, after you've waited, and we've seen this in California lots, you actually get there after waiting probably an hour and a half in a queue, and then you find out the charger's broken and you can't even charge the electric vehicle up. That's why people have just said this is not a technology that is usable. It's not fit for purpose. Well, they should have done a bit of research, and I've got no sympathy. All I can say is, aren't they such environmentalists? Charging the car up on gas-powered electrical generation plants, nuclear charged Teslas and other electric vehicles. Aren't they such environmentalists? Then you've got the open cast mines, the child labour, the poor working conditions in countries like Bolivia, Chile, Africa, where they mine cobalt, lithium. You were sold this story by a government that fraudulently blamed climate change on CO2. And for those that don't know, CO2 is at around 420 parts per million at the moment. It's a trace gas. And scientists like myself all around the world have just stood there in awe with our mouths open, watching this scam industry continue. Where's it come from? It's come from organisations like the United Nations and the European Union the World Health Organization, the International Monetary Fund, all these organizations are the ones that are pushing this industry forward based on absolute no science but more hysteria than anything else. And it's worked because the industry of the EV is now well in effect. Do you know there are plans in the future to subsidise the airline companies? Because you cannot fit a battery on an aircraft, on a, let's say, A380, and it fly for 12 hours on a charge. There is no such aircraft. So, you know, they're going to be burning jet fuel. What about ships that burn the worst of the worst? You know, if you want to look at how much dirty fuels are being used in different, you know, vehicles, look at ships, what sort of fuel they burn. You'll get an idea as to how unachievable net zero is at any point in the future. You know, they come out with these great ideas, but there's nothing there sustainable in the idea to make it even likely to work. Let's take wind generation. You know, those, you know, wind generators can kick out on a really windy day tons and tons of electricity, but there's no way to store it. They can't feed it into the grid. They have to break the wings to slow them down, to stop them producing that kind of electricity, because they will fry up the lines that feed into the national grid. So how smart is that? It's like, you know, a half working system where, you know, yes, let's use wind generation to feed into the grid so that we can save, you know, burning more gas and coal to produce electricity. But then you don't even have the systems to store the electricity even at the best times when you're creating it. Solar power, again, when the winter comes and there's ice all over the panel, it deteriorates its performance. On a cloudy day, it deteriorates its performance. On a rainy day, it deteriorates its performance. You know, if you're not regularly cleaning those solar panels on those solar fields that generate the electricity, it's deteriorating the performance. Again, people are coming up with these ideas, they're putting them into practice, but they're only like half-beaten ideas, or only likely to produce a half-reasonable effect. And no one seems to care about this. And by the way, you know, renewable energy is the most expensive. And they want the rest of the world to go all green, not burn any CO2, which is a plant food that keeps all your vegetation alive. And if we drop CO2 to 250 parts per million, we'd wipe ourselves out. But not before wiping out every vegetative, you know, species on this planet that produces oxygen. It wouldn't wipe us out because, you know, we wouldn't have enough oxygen. It would wipe us out because of all the diversity of species that rely on that vegetation to stay alive. Inevitably affects us. Like Einstein said, if the bees disappear this year, human beings 4 years later will disappear. You don't have to listen to scientists on these matters. And I've seen the reality of, you know, the truth. You know, 60,000 people could not maintain a small observatory in the United Kingdom tracking the magnetic North Pole. We've had to resort now to just relying on, you know, less than 200 people, you know, to keep us going so that we can produce, you know, the data for people on the magnetic North Pole migration, which is more important than CO2. Take my word for that. Your atmospheric protective shield, the magnetosphere, has weakened around 20 to 25%, which means more cosmic radiation is inbound. And we want to hope that things aren't slowing down in the core of the interior of our Earth, because if that is the case, we are going to be looking like Mars in the future, because that's exactly what happened to Mars. The core solidified, the magneto shut down, the magnetosphere collapsed, and sputtering eroded first of all its atmosphere, and then secondly the oceans on its surface. And we know there was water there, and we know there was a magnetosphere there. So this isn't just, speculation here. This is scientific facts that we've learned and recorded. Nobody is interested in the coming glacial period. And if we look at the glacial period record, we can see it's cyclical. It's a cycle of every 100,000 years. We go back into it. Shuts down most of the northern and southern hemispheres on our planet with regards to, agricultural production. They want to talk about global warming. When the Vikings lived not so long back in the history of our planet on Greenland, it was called Greenland because it was green, and they was able to settle there because of the temperatures. You just take a little look at a satellite photo of Greenland over the last 20 or even 100 years or 200 years. Yeah, really? Global warming? You can blow that out your arse, because we're not in nothing of the sorts of global warming. Everything is showing us that we are going into a cooling phase, and the magnetic North Pole migration, which is 500,000 years overdue, is going to add to that. And then for the last 4 consecutive solar cycles of a depleting solar output, which is encouraging a heliosphere shrinkage, which allows more cosmic rays into our upper atmosphere, and then more so because we've got a weakened magnetosphere. Don't be surprised at some point in the near future we hit the thermocline and rapidly go back into a glacial period, because we have had the best times according to the glacial records. We have already had our interglacial, which lasts 12 to 15,000 years. Now we're moving back into a glacial period, which lasts 90,000 years. So good luck with your Teslas and all your other electric vehicles and your electric, clean, environmentally based on lies, hysteria, climate change, and attempts to make things right. But at the moment, these people are running entirely in the wrong direction, and nothing is being done, and nothing is being prepared for the real impacts of climate change and the real causes of those impacts, because they've been slapped down hard on the table, and they are aware, but they're doing nothing about it. And as a result of that, they are steering humanity off the cliff. Guys, if you want to get behind somebody that is trying to do something about this, change the course of our future, there's a link down there in the description. And if you're interested in the magnetic North Pole, join us on Patreon. Only other thing for me to say is you take care of your loved ones and prepare for what is coming, because it isn't going to be a field full of roses. Sorry about that. As always, bye for now.